how many of you have been enjoying the rain? Beautiful rain, isn't it? Uh-oh. Some people have not. So this piece is called Sky Leaking Elephants. It rained last night. No, not like that. The meat pissing of a man grown old. Drip, drip, drip. This was a tropical storm. Sky leaking elephants. Angry torrents of urgency from nowhere. A dramatic, surprising deluge. It rained last night. No, it's not what you're thinking. A placid, hushing monotone. The preaching of a pious monk. Tropical rain crashed down. Drops the size of ripe mangoes. Drops sense right into my head. Bang, bang, bang. It rained last night. It hasn't rained in a while. Not like this. A tropical tempest. Soaking, parched, thirsting ground right through, emptying floods of gushing water. They threatened to free me from my moorings. Wah, wah, wah. It rained and rained and rained and rained last night. Just on time. A tropical tempest releasing life. Whoosh, whoosh. Knocking tendrils of grass away. Hastily they started to grow upwards. Glistening like small green snakes. Now you've heard from Urvi, and now I'm going to ask the three queens some questions. And when you started, I actually watched you start. So I've been paying attention to you. And if I'm not wrong, one of the reasons you started was because of traveling as black and traveling as a black woman. Is that true? Correct? Yeah. So I'd like one of you to say something about that, a little bit more about that.
Right? Okay. Thank you so much for that question, Sitawa. Listen, I mean, I was born in Zambia, and I have not lived in Zambia since '97. So I left home in my 20s and moved to Switzerland, and it was shocking. Even though I was born on the Zambia-Congo border, and half of my family is from Congo, what was Zaire, speak French and everything. Arriving in Europe and suddenly experiencing the first winter and also having to ask questions about why the heck is it getting dark at 3? And also experiencing depression for the first time and people not understanding. They're like, no, but you're black, you're just going to get some sun. But there is no sun. So having that awakening and realizing I've walked into a country from an Anglophone country into a Francophone, well, Switzerland isn't quite, it has many French, German, and Romansh and Italian. And waking up to the reality that I'm away from home. And how do I navigate this place in my 20s? And if I can say, I think my survival there was really based on the kindness of strangers. Like people I didn't know. A Spanish woman walked up to my desk and said, Musonda, I don't know you, but it's November. So you're going to learn how to ski. Because the only place you can see sun is in the mountains. I said, when do I start? And the rest is history. So every so often I'm in the Alps and really it's the kindness of strangers and just finding myself in this space, having to away from home. And by the way, I grew up a little bit like this, for those of you who've grown up not in the nucleus family, but grown up in really community, big families. I was eating with 20 people in my grandmother's house, sitting on the floor eating, and then suddenly I'm all by myself in a studio. It was freedom, and it was confusing. And so I started to cook for people. Like, really, come home, Really? Why? We can go to restaurant. No, I will cook. Like I will not poison you. I cook very well. I just wanted company. So that was my experience.
I want to hear from every single one of you.
Wonderful. I love that. She's a very good cook, by the way. I'll try and sometimes bribe her to just pass by, you know. And because she's vegan and I don't know how to cook good vegan food, she cooks and she comes to cook, which is wonderful. So I get a 2-in-1 sort of deal on that. So for me, my story with travel is all about the possibilities. When I had my daughter, way back in 1996, so she's 25 years old, I remember she was 4 months old and I was called for an interview. And we were going through a really difficult time with her father, and I were, business was not good for him. I had a kind of regular job, and he was scrounging, and life was tough. And then suddenly this gorgeous bundle of joy. And then I got called for this interview. So I took a matatu, got to the office of this big multinational, dusted off my shoes, arranged the padding, because of course I've been breastfeeding, so you have to make sure that you're well padded. If you think about the baby, and for those who've had babies, you know that when you think about the baby, you know what happens. The dam's breast, the 2 dams, you know what I'm talking about. And so, of course, I was well padded, ready for any eventuality, because I'm going in for an interview and you don't want to have any accidents. And I go in for this interview, end up being interviewed by like 3 or 4 people. So I'm there all day, thinking about the baby, I'm telling myself, stop it, because you're going to have an emergency. Anyway, long story short, I get this job. And my first day at work, where I go by matatu, I'm given the keys of a brand new Honda Accord. So I go home thinking, woo, this is cool. And that was the turning point. Actually, that was when my life changed. I wanted to talk about possibilities because when I think about travel, that job opened up the world to me. Next thing, it was a regional marketing job, handling 12 countries. And I was thinking, oh my God, a bit of imposter syndrome, but okay, stop it, imposter syndrome, get me away from me kind of thing. But suddenly, I was flying first class and business class to all these amazing places. The company had a policy that you travel business class. And when you're traveling with somebody senior who is traveling first class, you're upgraded because it's about equality and everybody must be treated the same. So every time I traveled with my boss, I found myself in business class, in first class thinking, what? And honestly, it opened up the world to me. I mean, I went to all these, from Russia to the US, to all over Europe, to all over Africa, because I was in Africa. I went to Mauritius every 6 weeks or so, because it was one of my markets. I also went to DRC in a time when there was civil strife. And my colleagues used to laugh and say, "You're always in Mauritius. Are you ever in DRC? Because that's where the real work is." And I'd be like, "Listen, my high margin markets are Mauritius. Please give me a minute. I need to be in Mauritius, thank you." But it opened up the world, and so I got a chance to travel the world and stay in the most amazing places that I would never have dreamed I could afford. And so for me, the biggest learning as I went through this journey is that everything is possible. From a situation where I went for an interview in a matatu, dusted my shoes, arranged the padding in my bra so that because I was still breastfeeding, to where I'm jetting around the world in first class. Like, what? Mama, I made it, Yeah. It was incredible. And so part of the conversations we've been having with my 2 polyglots, girls, sisters from another mother, is really just around just the journeys we've been on and the things we've seen and the things we've experienced. And it's just been a wonderful journey and a blessing. And our objective is to just share our stories, share the learnings, share insights, share input, share advice as and when we can. And hope that changes your journey in some way or form. Thank you.
And now we'll get
Now hear from Micheline.
I don't even know how to follow. Most of the time when I'm with these ladies, and we call each other queens, we just have such a blast. I'm just giggling like a child. I'm just cackling away. And indeed, that's how that light bulb moment came, where I said, this thing of a podcast would be so much fun because they're cracking me up, because their stories are hilarious. Now there is one, yes, we're on YouTube, and you should find the stories that you think, really sort of interest you the most. But the one that was straight direct line to us deciding to start with Three Queens was one of Achieng's dates that had so much in it, because it was about being black, it was about being foreign, it was about trying something new, let's say a new way of dating, and I just thought the layers of and the experiences that happen, particularly when you travel, right? I'm a Nairobian and I'm a New Yorker, and I moved here from Sao Paulo, so they call me a Paulistana, and my parents are from Uganda and Rwanda. I take that too. It doesn't really matter to me, and that's the thing that has happened. I grew up as what I now know is called a third culture kid, but also worked. You didn't hear me say what I do because it doesn't so much define me now, but started working in international development, changed. I'm a career entrepreneur, worked in technology, worked in health, and now I mostly advise businesses and invest in them. And in all of this, across different continents, I found I can learn new skills, and I'm very lucky. Yes, I've worked hard and gone to schools and all of that, but a lot of it was luck and timing. So I thought I'm very lucky to have these different opportunities. And yes, parents sacrificed a lot, as many Africans do. But at the end, probably 12 years in, I've been working more than 20 years, it is the multi-layered, multicultural, multiple languages, almost anthropologic experience that defines me. And that's how I almost have gone around and come to a center where I say, being a Pan-African, global woman, an Afro-optimist, those are the things that define me. And a lot of them break stereotypes. A lot of them are like, huh, what? But you said you're from here. And I'm like, yes, but and. And a lot of them aim to as I was saying before, and I really like to be a broken record on this, just have a different layer to what African means. Yes, I'm sure my aunties carry big things on their heads. The big thing on the head, in all your villages. Okay, I'm not sure about those. Most of the villages, what's depicted. Yeah? Sure, I'm sure there are many, even today, cousins and aunts who have carried their bundles. But at the same time, they're not necessarily in my day-to-day. They haven't necessarily been in my last 2 decades in terms of an experience, a lived experience. I wanted us to be able to share these experiences, and I continue to cackle and giggle with the girls because they never stop. I think delighting me and delighting the world with fantastic stories.
Thank you very much. I'm going to, I know, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I know that Urvi as well has a lot of travel experience. So let's hear from you. Just turn it on. I'll turn it on.
Yes, I was a born Kenyan, Indian family. You know how it used to be. Very closed, in a full Indian school. Indian. So when I went to Australia to study, I only hung out with Zambians. And I used to be like, oh my God, this is a whole new level, because we just didn't have we'd never really interacted with Kenyans, or never had that opportunity. And our housemates were all, Zambians. And literally when I'd go to uni, I'd just hang out with them. And then sometimes when I see the Indians look at me, I'd be like, You know, or if I go clubbing with them, I'd be like, oh God, I'm gonna be judged. But I got over it. I got over it, and I just learned so much about who really Kenyans were. So my job was just to hang out and learn, to cut all those myths and barriers in the brain, you know, and all the judgments and all the racism and, you know, that kind of stuff, which I went with in my mind. So that was really something that I loved, and I'm completely over it, because you can see I'm probably the only Indian girl here. So that was it, and then I went to Canada, and I went to, you know, and I studied in Australia for 10 years, just mixed with a whole lot of people from everywhere around the world, similar tales, dating tales, all sorts of fun. And I'm like you guys, I love to burst out like this, because I don't often get a chance, still. I think a burst of energy like this in our community is not still as norm, so I always look out for an opportunity. So that's pretty much my journey, and of course traveling with my dad really exposed me to a lot of cultures, how he would speak and interact with anywhere around the world. That really taught me something, how to break communication barriers.
Thank you very much. I mean, I think one of the things that I'm taking from the four ladies in terms of storytelling is authenticity and vulnerability. I think they have been daring. We've gotten more than just a glossy image of who they are. We've gotten a little bit into their worlds, and that is very enjoyable. I mean, I think I could listen to the four of you all evening. Unfortunately, we have a whole evening to continue this game. And I'm now going to break out into a poem. And this is from traveling. I'm really thrilled that I have this opportunity to recite this particular poem, which never gets an outing. So it's getting an outing now. It's called Dangerous Abroad. I left the shores of my own safe home to wander far and wide, a ship adrift in foreign storms, in search of new adventure. Out of the blue, from winding queue, I alone am called. Yes, you, madame. Just follow me. We want a word or two. We won't be long, added a woman in uniform, as she stretched her mouth out wide. I stepped aside and followed swift, with no commotion, quite curious now to play this game to see where it might lead. Soon enough, the two started interrogation, a sharp barrage of questions to maximize intimidation. Where are you going, madame? Where have you come from, madame? What were you doing there, madame? And why, madame? I looked at those two and chose my attack. I decided to purr like a cat and hit my claws for grand effect. I must confess, I was going to play. I spoke with divine composure, giving a keynote address at a human rights conference. What do you mean, madame? He intoned. I was the guest of honor, I replied. I followed kindly enough with two new questions. Are you surprised? Don't I fit your bill? I now spoke with motherly sweet. Is it my height, or perhaps my weight, or maybe my hair, or rather that it's not there? I know, I explained some more. I cut it off first in girlish pride, only to expose a pleasingly shaped head. See it in profile, At its very best, I urge them both, but don't touch. That's out of bounds. I will not abide your hands on my head. The woman blinked in rapid succession. In these days, you can't be too careful. The pattern has changed. The world is upside down. Women have joined men in their criminal ways, shooting and killing and robbing banks. Now we make no assumptions. And the man added, we're just doing our job. And what job is that? I growled down low. Is that work to lay in wait for me? Oh, lucky me. Oh, what joy. My very own welcoming committee. How did you know I was passing through when this is but my very first time with you? Unaware of the threat in my molten voice, the man spoke some more. Madam, we don't mean to offend. We're employed to guard the nation. We're highly skilled in detection. We have to be alert to stop all intrusion. These days, there are dangers galore. Al-Qaeda and other terrorists afoot are spreading dread and fear from state to state, and ours is no exception. I stared at him who had spoken, with honest aplomb and certain clear tones, so sure of his words, and I started to snarl. The cat became lioness, hunting her prey. Oh, thank you, kind sir, for that wise explanation. I see your point in its full summation. Those terrorists are truly exasperating, endangering lives of innocent victims. But how many of them have been like me? Beautiful and brown, I mean. A woman that is from Africa. Take your time, do not haste and make a mistake. I am sure you have facts from the internet of scary insurgent women from the dark continent who have blown themselves up for a peculiar cause. Do let me in on your special report. I watched for a while with a grip of my eye and slowly resumed my speaking. So it is I with terrorist look, I alone in this colorful crowd. I see a flaw in this deduction that could cost you a nation. I offer you aid for no special reward. Look at that man over there. That one. He has squinting eyes. To me, he looks doubtful, don't you think? That other one, and that one as well. I count a dozen that look more hostile than me. Why not call them as well? Really, I could do with the company. So alone am I here, all by myself. And this last I spoke for all to hear. The two were taken aback. They turned to exchange incredulous looks. Abruptly, they sent me away. Okay, madam, you can go, they said as if dispensing a favor. But the feline in me wouldn't leave. Not so soon. Not yet. I held my look and watched them some more. And when I was done, I turned slowly to go.
Hey.
And that opens a chapter of the challenges that you may have experienced while traveling as brown women.
Too many.
Completely love that poem. I think we've all got stories about those experiences. I mean, one of mine, and some of you may have seen it online, was I was flying into Mauritius. I mean, do I look like a drug dealer? Really, really. I mean, maybe the beret might make you look a bit like a drug dealer. Honestly, seriously, have too much to lose, you know? And the guys at the airport literally singled me out. I was the second person off the plane, and these guys literally singled me out. And then I gave them my papers and everything, and they said, but where's your airline, you know, your flight back, your return ticket thing? And I said, oh, no, I haven't printed it, but I leave in, I guess I was leaving in a few days. And the guy says, no, wait here. And he rushes off and brings his colleagues, who were 3 buff guys. I mean, guys, I'm 5 foot. Don't let the boots, the heels fool you. Like, I'm 5'2". I'm not the tallest, scariest person you ever saw at an airport, you know. 3 buff guys came, and of course everyone has come off the plane, and now they're all looking at me like, oh my God, is she done? Is she done? I mean, it was the most cringe-worthy experience, honestly, I've ever had with travel. And it's just interesting how sometimes you experience these things, and one side of you wants to really scream and shout and say, you know, but it's not fair. Why are you picking on me? I mean, I'm 5'2", I'm Shani's mom, you know, gosh, you know, I have a job, I have bills to pay, I have like a little house on, you know, that I built. Like, I'm legit, you know, and your first instinct is to, you know, you're so worked up, but you can't get mad. And then the long story short, obviously, is in the end, I called the office, made everybody scurry around to try and get the documentation they needed. And the guy was actually standing there, speaking to his colleague, telling his colleague in Creole,
Verify that document.
make sure it's real. In Creole, but Creole is very similar to French. So of course I understood, you know? And I remember feeling so offended. So maybe my stint living in Mauritius was really short because that initial experience was just really bad. But it's an adventure. Now we can look back and we can laugh. But let's just say that sometimes we go through some really interesting experiences. And for me, it's important that we talk about them because it's too easy to brush them away. I think it's a reality that when we travel, sometimes you go through these things, and how you react can disrupt your experience, and you almost have to make a conscious choice to say, you know what, okay, now that I'm in, okay, not everybody is bad or hectic, let's just enjoy the experience. So that was a bit of a dramatic one, but you know, it worked out well in the end.
Absolutely. I had material for a poem with all my experiences.
No, that point was just a blast. No, that's really funny. But I'm going to talk about my experience of actually traveling in Africa. So I'm in Nairobi, and I'm heading this amazing program for WWF. If you know WWF, the Panda, the conservation organization, I'm feeling part. I've just inherited this massive program of the Congo Basin, and I'm traveling to Cameroon for the first time. I'm like ready, my big backpack. I'm like, woo, we're just going to do this thing. I'm going to the Congo Basin, and I take a KQ flight into Yaoundé, land in Yaoundé. I'm walking in there proud. You know, I'm an African and I'm following these 10 Chinese guys. And I see them going, and then I just get there and I'm just about to, hey, madame, excusez-moi. Say, wow. Did you say that? Mais je regardais le chinois là. They're just going through. Mais those are the investors. I was so freaked out. So freaked out. I was like, this man just called the Chinese investors. What just happened here? And then I turned to him and I'm like, Moose, calm down, calm down. I said, Monsieur, I removed my passport, and then he looks at me. Oh, Zambia, il faut pas bien français! Il faut pas bien français! I said, Monsieur, oh, madame, but you have no visa. You have no visa. I said, but I'm an African. No, but your office! That's something this thing. I started like scampering the letter, the what, the Chinese just went through. And I'm like, oh shoot, my Kenyan number does not work. In Yaoundé, what to do? I just pull out all these documents. Oh yes, this is the paper you should have removed the first time round. Now I come to this office here. And the process lasted an hour. And so for me, I kind of like woken up to this reality of going to different parts of the continent, and it just triggered me. It's like, I need to go to these different parts of this so-called home that we call Africa, to just figure out and understand some of the complexities of us as Africans having to enter these spaces that, you know, and I'm fortunate enough to be multilingual and walking, because every time I walk into Senegal or Mali, they say you're Senegalese, you look like you're well-off, and no, I'm an African. I'm half South African, half Zambian, half Congolese, half Angola, God knows whatever. But the pain of just having to go through these spaces, and I don't know how others have experienced it or have not in that way as well.
Such great stories. You know, I guess the mic isn't working. I think of three. I think of traveling. Okay. So I think of traveling in Europe and the US, of which I've done so much for school, for work, for family, and always expect the bias, such that those have become slightly boring stories, which, you know, is unfortunate. Like, you know, so quick three anecdotes from, I guess, the emerging markets. So where I'm surprised. One, so I live in Brazil and I traveled a lot across Latin America for work, and each and every time, I'd say every other time, which is like every other week, they would say to me, "Are you a samba dancer?" Samba. Now, my friends, let me tell you those samba dancers, you've seen them. The woman in front with the feathers and the on the one hand, thank you. Right? On the one hand, it means my diet is working, my moisturizer is working, my weed is tight. But thinking deeply and seriously, it is not a compliment. And I in fact wrote an article. I don't know why I don't like it when people ask me if I'm a samba dancer. It's online. I wrote it for a publication. Because deep down, it really meant that these people that see me, there was Avianca, Colombian airline, and there were a couple, there was a Brazilian airline, Sul, they'd see me each time. Blazer, you know, little luggage, I'm going for a meeting. And either they or just the people around me, yes, business class, they just couldn't imagine, because that's a stereotype for black people in the Americas. Same dance. Didn't like that. Second and third story, also annoying, but just very kind of funny. Went to Tehran for work, and I think going in was fine. I really loved Iran. I had a great time. I was coming out. I was leaving rather, so this is at the airport, and they were doing the search. So it's in a lot of, I guess, Muslim countries, women go in one line and men go in the other. And this was like a little cubicle with a curtain where they were searching me. These women searched like this. I don't know what they expected to find in my cornrows. And you know when you do your cornrows and they're fresh, you can't just stop touching them. You're messing up my cornrows. So they did the search. I don't know if perhaps people braid drugs and things in their hair. We just didn't know. And then they really, really, really scanned me. And I thought, I said to the lady, I said, do you like women? I said, just to have a bit of a laugh. And she just was like, you can go. So that was again, I thought, you know, this could be prejudice, but I also was like, well, I'm just going to have a laugh. You know, perhaps she likes women and I'm her type. And perhaps my hair is just so amazing, you had to touch it. Finally, very quickly, in Bolivia, I was going for work, and this was just before, it was this random last check before getting into the plane. And, you know, I tell this in one of our YouTubes called, I think, Traveling While Black. So my little personal little, you know, women always have a little pouch for lipstick or for, you know, just cute little things. And so unfortunately it comes tumbling, I hope men aren't squeamish, but, you know, comes tumbling on my personal monthly pads and tampons. And they said, and they were just being horrible to me, and they're like, where are you? And where are you from? And I was like, so Uganda, I'm Ugandan. And they're like, where are you going? I'm going to work. And they were like, what is this? And I was like, and I just looked at them. And I just said to them, it's my month, I have my monthly period. Son los tampones por mi periodo mensual. And that was just it. I think they just shrunk into like yuckiness. Like it was so yucky. It was so yucky for them to hear that. But they just sort of, you know, dropped my things, and and I had to go and pick them one by one, and it was just sort of embarrassing. But, you know, again, over 30, at that time I was like, there's no way I can be a professional for an international organization and have you little cops, right, make me feel so bad that I have to pick up my tampons, you know? So yeah, 3 emerging market anecdotes, but I tried to find humor.
The brown woman experience. It's continuing.
I have a different view of it. I hope so. I really hope so. So the minute I do that, it works. For me, I think as a brown girl, it's not as exciting as you guys, but a couple of experiences where I was quite confident when I used to travel with my father to India. But once I started to go alone, things changed. Unfortunately, they just wouldn't look at me as a businesswoman. It's when I'm designing jewelry, I'd love to just gallivant and travel through gullies and alleys and just explore and find out. But it's the back of my mind, all I know is shit, what if I get raped? Because as an Indian woman, being so brave, trying to be, and they know I'm not from India. They know it, no matter how hard I try to speak the language. So I feel like those were quite challenging, interesting times. I waded through them. But as in, you know, a brown girl traveling alone, that was quite an impactful journey in my 8 years without traveling with my dad. Yeah, apart from that, of course, Thailand was interesting as well. Traveling, backpacking for like a month with my friends. Not as crazy as you guys, but I was put out for, they thought I had drugs all over me. So same thing, same experiences. You're just like, how? I'm just an innocent girl who's traveling. But these experiences which really make you and mold you, and you need them to figure out, you know, who we are and how we're going to tackle life. Be it your husband, be it your father, be it anybody. So those are that. And Dubai, the guy just came up and thought it was his right to just kiss me. Yeah.
Like, how?
Like, he just, and my friend was right next to me, and he just came and he was like, and I screamed and ran to the reception, locked the door. But this is what I think a brown girl, or any girl, I don't know, traveling alone, you seem like you have to pay a price for it, and that's just not, that wasn't cool. He did, but he nearly did. And he was quite macho, so, you know, if I wasn't in the right place or right space, I don't know, like, you know, and I was in uni, so I was in transit and coming, and I was a young girl, so that's some of my experiences.
I just wanted to ask you a question about what is it that distinguished you in India so that they know that you're not in
I think just everything. I'm Kenyan.
Yeah, but what is it? You
The
know,
language, the
you go somewhere else
dressing.
and, like, you know, if I go to Lamu, even if I'm wearing a boo, they can tell that I am not from there because of the way I walk.
Yeah, same here. I think the way I talk.
You know, how you hold your body.
Yeah, just the way we talk, the way we walk, the way we communicate, confidence, and haggling with them, you know. Nobody puts me down kind of thing. So they just know that you're not from here. Yeah.
Okay, so one of the things that I'm really interested in is the impact of the work that you have done, right? So
you guys have started a podcast, you put a jewelry business. Let's talk a little bit about, I want to begin with you, talk about your jewelry business. What are the highlights? What has the journey been like? What are the things that really stand